Hello everyone, I'm Samantha Blankenship and welcome to my presentation, Motivation in Action, Connecting Theory to Real Students. In this video, I'll share what I've learned throughout my motivation course and show how I've applied theory to practice. You'll hear about two students, Carla and Daniel, whose motivation challenges help me explore how major theories come alive in real classrooms. Along the way, I'll connect those theories to frameworks like expectancy value theory, attribution theory, goal orientation theory, and the powerful roles that emotion and context play in motivation. When I think about motivation now, I see it as the why behind behavior. What keeps students trying, learning, and growing? It fuels persistence, curiosity, and resilience, but it is also deeply personal and shaped by a student's internal world. As teachers, we often witness only the outward behavior, the student who shuts down during a task, avoids participation, or appears indifferent. But those surface actions are just the visible portion of a much more complex system of beliefs, values, and emotions that influence how students interpret challenges and decide whether to engage. Understanding motivation has helped me recognize that every behavior is connected to something underneath, whether that be confidence, relevance, past experiences, or even unspoken feelings of anxiety or frustration. Theories of motivation give us a way to look beneath that surface and identify what is actually driving engagement or disengagement. Instead of reacting to behaviors as fixed traits or signs of apathy, these frameworks allow us to respond with greater clarity and intention. By viewing motivation through this lens, I can better recognize needs that students may not yet be able to articulate. It helps me support their effort, strengthen their confidence, and create learning experiences that connect with what they value. Ultimately, motivation becomes a tool for seeing the whole child, not just their actions, but the beliefs and emotions guiding them, so I can teach with greater empathy, purpose, and understanding. One foundational theory we studied was expectancy value theory. It's built on a simple but powerful formula. Motivation equals expectancy multiplied by value. Expectancy reflects the belief, can I do this? While value addresses the question, is this worth doing? For students to remain motivated, both beliefs must be strong. If a student feels capable but sees no relevance, their engagement fades. If they value the task but doubt their ability, they struggle to persist. This framework highlights how motivation weakens the moment either belief can start to erode. In practice, I've often seen dips in effort or participation trace back to a quiet shift in one of these areas. Students either stop believing they can succeed or stop seeing the task as meaningful. Restoring that balance by strengthening competence and relevance can re-energize students, helping them push through difficulty and engage more deeply in their learning. To understand how students explain their success or failure, I turn to Weiner's attribution theory. This framework outlines three dimensions of how we interpret outcomes. Through the locus, we ask whether the cause is internal or external. Through stability, we ask whether the cause is consistent over time or changeable. And through controllability, we ask whether the individual can influence the cause. These dimensions shape not only how students make sense of their performance, but also how they feel and how much effort they've put forth. When students believe their struggles come from external, stable, or uncontrollable factors, such as luck, teacher bias, or belief that they just aren't good at this, they often lose motivation because they don't see a path to improvement. In contrast, when students view outcomes as internal and controllable, like effort, strategy, or persistence, they are far more likely to stay engaged and continue working toward success. This theory helps explain why shifting students' perceptions of what causes their results can dramatically affect their confidence and long-term motivation. Through my first case study, I applied the attribution theory to Carla, a sixth grader whose experience with Spanish shifted dramatically over time. During the summer, Carla had been excited to learn the language. She practiced frequently, picked up vocabulary quickly, and carried herself with growing confidence. She genuinely enjoyed the learning process and felt capable of succeeding. However, once the school year began, that confidence unraveled. Carla started saying that Spanish was suddenly too hard, and she attributed her difficulties to things like her teacher talking too fast, having a confusing accent, or making the class feel rushed. These explanations signaled a clear shift in her attribution patterns. She began viewing her challenges as caused by external, stable, and uncontrollable factors, conditions she believed she had no power to change. As those beliefs took hold, her sense of control diminished. Instead of seeing effort or strategy as pathways to improvement, she interpreted setbacks as proof that success was out of reach. Over time, her motivation steadily declined, showing just how powerfully attributions can shape a student's confidence, engagement, and willingness to persist. I decided to apply attribution theory to help Carla reframe her beliefs. I reminded her of a time she struggled similarly in science, but eventually excelled. We explored what she did differently, her effort, her routines, and her focus, and she realized those were all internal and controllable factors that led to her success. From there, I helped her develop a similar plan for Spanish, using YouTube tutorials, studying at home, how to set realistic goals, and calling me to practice new words. Within 2 weeks, her tone had changed from frustration to excitement, and she was confident again. She began saying things like, "I get it now," instead of, "It's too hard." Through this, she was able to reframe her failure as learning opportunities. Carla's progress showed me how reshaping casual explanations can rebuild motivation. Once she felt control over her success, effort followed naturally. The second theory that guided my work was the goal orientation theory. While attribution theory explains how students interpret outcomes, goal orientation theory explores why they engage in the learning in the first place. Some students want to master skills, while others want to look competent or avoid failure. Each goal orientation influences motivation differently. This theory defines 4 types of goal orientations. Mastery approach focuses on learning and improving. That's when we say, "I want to learn and get better." Performance approach is focused on proving competence to others. That's when students might say, "I want to be the best," or show I can do it better than others. Mastery avoidance is focused on avoiding misunderstanding or forgetting. That's when we might catch a student saying, "I don't want to make mistakes," or maybe misunderstand the content. And lastly, we have performance avoidance, which is focused on avoiding failure or embarrassment. That's when a student might say, "I don't want to look bad," or fail in front of others. Each of these orientations shape motivation differently. Mastery goals promote curiosity and resilience, while performance avoidance goals often create anxiety and disengagement. My second case study focused on a quiet student named Daniel, who reflected a clear performance avoidance orientation. He rarely volunteered answers, avoided eye contact, and often whispered, "I just don't want the worst grade." He wasn't unmotivated. His motivation was misdirected and came from fear. He wanted to avoid failure more than he wanted to learn. His quiet avoidance wasn't laziness, it was self-protection, as his self-worth depended on not looking incompetent, and that fear kept him from taking risks. Through goal orientation, I realized his goal orientation was centered on performance avoidance, avoiding failure instead of approaching mastery. To support Daniel, I redesigned the classroom environment using principles from the goal orientation theory. I shifted the definition of success away from grades and toward growth, consistent effort, and thoughtful strategy. Instead of highlighting who performed best, I removed public grade comparisons and focused on celebrating progress in more meaningful ways. Assignments were redesigned to emphasize application and deeper understanding, and my feedback encouraged students to reflect on their learning steps, revise their thinking, and recognize what strategies were working for them. During test preparation, I modeled calm, mastery-based study habits that prioritize comprehension over memorization, helping students see assessments as opportunities to demonstrate learning rather than moments to fear. Over time, Daniel became more willing to take on challenges. His anxiety noticeably decreased, and he began to approach tasks with genuine curiosity. What was most encouraging was how these changes influenced the rest of the class. The climate grew more supportive, engaged, and motivated as students adopted similar mastery-focused attitudes. One key insight from this course is how central motivations are linked to motivation. Positive emotions like pride, curiosity, and enjoyment can enhance learning by broadening attention and persistence. Negative emotions like shame or anxiety narrow focus and reduce creativity. In both cases, Carla and Daniel's motivation turned around only after their emotional experiences changed. Once fear, frustration, or shame were replaced with control, confidence, and hope, their engagement followed naturally. I now view emotion not as a distraction from learning, but as a gateway to it. Emotions reveal what students value, fear, or believe about themselves. Context matters, and the classroom context plays a powerful role in shaping motivation. Students read their environment for signals about what's valued. If grades, competition, or comparison dominate, performance goals take over. But if collaboration, curiosity, and feedback are emphasized, mastery goals thrive. Daniel's transformation reminded me that one student's change can ripple through the entire class. By shifting the environment toward mastery, through language, feedback, and structure, I created space for every student to feel safer taking risks and valuing growth. When I step back and connect everything we've studied, motivation becomes easier to see as a dynamic, interconnected system rather than a set of isolated theories. Each framework contributes a different lens for understanding why students engage, persist, or withdraw. Expectancy value theory reminds me that motivation depends on both confidence and meaning. Students must believe that they can succeed and also feel that the task matters. Attribution theory adds another layer by showing how students explain their successes and setbacks influence their future choices, emotions, and willingness to try again. Goal orientation theory helps clarify that the goals students pursue are not always equal. Mastery-focused goals tend to promote curiosity and resilience, whereas performance-focused or avoidance-oriented goals can create pressure and hesitation. Emotion provides the energy behind every action, shaping how students respond to challenges, feedback, and uncertainty. And context, the classroom climate, the relationships, routines, and expectations quietly shape how all these elements are experienced in real time. Together, these theories reveal motivation as an evolving system in which beliefs, goals, emotions, and environmental cues constantly interact. Seeing the bigger picture helps me better understand not just what students do, but why they do it and how small shifts in one area can ripple outward to transform the entire motivational experience. This course has completely reshaped how I view teaching. I've learned to diagnose why a student disengages before reacting to what they do. I build emotional safety first, then design for mastery instead of compliance. After all, motivation isn't fixed. It's cultivated through connection, feedback, and care. Every day, we can help students rediscover the joy of learning.